Welcome to a true spiritual adventure story like the world has never known with your host, Dr. James Yogati Weldon. Good day, this is Dr. Jim Weldon Yogati speaking to you from Heavenly Mountain in Boone, North Carolina, our community which is dedicated to building a bridge between our cultures and the traditions of spirituality and personal growth in the world. This is a continuation of my ongoing story, Surprising My Friends, the story behind the greatest story ever told, subtitled Memories from the Life of Jesus. And the reason I say that is that this is how they appeared to me. And the backstory of these books was that many years ago, in a high state of consciousness known as Turiya, this is beyond our normal waking, dreaming, and sleeping, I began to see and experience scenes from the life of Jesus. And when I came back out of that, woke up, I was completely surprised. And after this continued for several days, I said, I better start writing this down. And so I did so. And several decades have gone by because after I completed a part of it, I decided, who would believe it? What should I do with it? So it sat for some time until this community I now live in was developed. It's the largest multicultural, as far as I know, in the Western Hemisphere. I've been blessed to have a home right at the door at. And so I've really completed the first novel here, adventure novel, a true spiritual adventure novel of the life of Jesus. In the validation of the truth of this, I make no claims. All I am doing is sharing what I experienced. But if you need to hear a little bit about my personal backstory to validate this, I encourage you to consider the two novels that I've written, How to Live an Enlightened Life, my first book, and my second one, Adventures with and the Rise of the First World Teacher. At this point in the story, Jesus has received his training as a child in the East. And about 30 years old, he has come back to Galilee and the area and land known as Israel now, and has met John the Baptist, was baptized by him, and literally he was christened at that time during the baptism. You could say that the Holy Spirit, the divine cosmic awareness, came in, joined with him in his mind, and then he completed a period of retreat in the desert to stabilize that. It was a very, very powerful event, time to become accustomed to what he experienced. That was obviously the first miracle. Although when you talk about the miracles of Jesus, they begin with the turning water into wine. But really the first miracle was the joining of his consciousness and the cosmic awareness. The Father, you could say, mother of all. And he now has completed that retreat in the desert, and he is beginning his ministry. First year is, we could call this the interlude. That entire time that is written about in the Bible really is 2.5, 3 years, not much time. How could you possibly understand the life of Jesus without knowing what came before and what happened after that period where he had his ministry? So his travels and acts during this time have been compiled and written about a number of years later. The experts say that the first written records, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, actually didn't end up in writing for anywhere from 75 years later. So a lot of time has passed. Those Gospels were not written by Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. But Jesus did give the instruction when he left this period of his life for individuals to remember what has happened and to share the story. So when you look at those Gospels, there are definitely discrepancies. Of course, we need to realize that what we have now as the Bible went through a long period of multiple translations. And there were different factions in the early Christian church. One of them talked about the kingdom of heaven as being an attainment, a state of godliness, or one finds that level of existence within oneself. And the kingdom of heaven is within you. What became the Bible was really a compilation of many texts, which occurred around the time of Constantine's convocation. There are political reasons that he wanted to support the fledgling Christian church. There were several other emperors which were competing against him, and he needed something to galvanize his forces. The meeting of Constantine with the early church leaders, and as I said in the early portion of the book, there were competing factions. We know that what happened with Jesus definitely became political, and we certainly understand the divisions that can happen as a result of different opinions politically. We're living through one of those now, in 2021, 22, 23, these dates. Hopefully for those of you that listen to this several decades down the road, you look back and say, what a crazy time. Well, this was a crazy time too, as well. And so the other faction was Paul, or Saul, who had a very strong experience with Jesus on the road to Damascus. All he could say was, you just need to believe, you need to accept this. And obviously it was much easier for them to accept this statement of Paul, and that you just need to believe, you need to accept. Yes, you can study some of the stories, but you're basically finished once you accept Jesus into your life. And that happened to me also in my life when I was very young. I had my own little church when I was 12, 13 years old, and we went through some very strong experiences. And so this first year of his life is really the travels and acts of Jesus in year one. Let's talk about some of the acts and things that happened with Jesus, and also his state of mind and his awareness. As Jesus said, he was a man like any man, but what had happened to him, this christening that took place for a very specific reason, in order to lift the weight of the heaviness result of the acts that had been done by all those people. And another statement of his was, as you sow, so shall you reap. So what do we do when we have done some things which we wish we hadn't? We can be forgiven in the effect of those events which are bearing down on us. In the East, they talk of the law of karma. How do we overcome that? My point in this work is that life is very, very long. And Jesus, like all of us, has been here before, and he is coming again. And part of the story of this work, you might have suspected, that we're in a major transition time in the world right now. And I have to say that in my life, I have seen miracles like this happen a number of times. I talk about some of these in my earlier books that happened to me, around me. Just imagine, if you will, the mind and heart of the christened Jesus. Now some of these things begin to happen to him. And of course, a miracle is considered something that is beyond the realm of the normal possibilities, the healing of individuals, the transformation of matter, knowing things that you should not know, understanding the path of one's life. You could say that Jesus definitely now at this point understood the gist of what was going to happen in the next few years in his life. And in order to live with that, he needed to have great confidence and great strength. When you recognize that this life is connected to all lives, that is certainly a miracle. I'm sitting in front of this globe. Our entire history is on this globe. Our understanding of the possibilities of life is very small when you consider the vastness of the universe. If you knew everything that had been discovered and achieved on this planet, just look at the stars above you. This world is a living being. This universe, the godliness, the divine quality within it, is everywhere. And many of the miracles that were talked about in the Bible, we've experienced those ourselves. I mean, the fact that I can talk here to my video camera and you can listen to this anywhere in the world, even after I'm long gone, is pretty amazing. That would be a miracle. Many of the things that happened with Jesus, bringing people back from a state they are apparently dead, is happening in hospitals everywhere in this world now, almost every day. And so we can understand and accept those because those are more commonplace. We understand some of the science behind it, how the world works, and that allows us to accept it. Of course, we have no idea how this computer video system really works. Really, the scientists that understand all of it are very, very rare, and I don't. And nor do I expect you to accept everything that I say here at face value. Personally, I'm saying that everything that I talk about in terms of the life of Jesus and the growth and the possibilities, higher states of consciousness, uniting with the divine existence all around us, everywhere, doesn't need to be accepted by faith, but faith does help. Many times, the miracles that took place, Jesus would say, "Your faith cured you." And in my profession, in this life as a natural holistic doctor, I've seen amazing things happen to individuals who should have passed away, but they healed themselves. I was just a mentor in assisting that process. So really, miracles are going on all around us all the time, every single second. We are part of a vast life. We are connected to all life that is or can be connected. In the process of our growth, our achievement in this life, and the long series of lives that we have lived and we probably are going to live in the future, is evolutionary. just like our understanding of science and physics and quantum mechanics has allowed us to do incredible, unbelievable things. You can fly through the air on a plane. You can talk to anybody in the world through this medium. You can get information from the data banks of this world. Type in any name, any series of words on your computer, and that comes to you. So you might think of this state of being christened like that literally he was propelled into a state united with the Father, the Holy Spirit, Blessed Mother Earth, and he was able to know, see, feel, and be a part of events that we would consider impossible at that time. And so I'd like you to consider looking at this next period of his life, the travels and the acts of Jesus in his first year in that way. And what is happening? He's moving from place to place. He's becoming connected with those that can be part of his ministry so that he could bring into the world something precious, something of the love of the divine existence, and help heal that area of the world. All the great spiritual beings who have been on this planet, and there are many, the vast, vast majority of them, you don't know the story of their life, but I can tell you those stories in my mind are equal to the story of the life of Jesus. See, we only have 3 years. So how can we possibly know his life, know who he is, know what he came to bring to this world without a bridge to the greater life that he is living and the traditions of this world? Jesus did not come into this world to create Christianity. All that happened many years later. He came to provide a blessing, to bring something good into this world, to help contribute in raising the awareness, the life, the holiness, if you will, of a few of those people around him. And so he did. So in the same way that your human body is composed of trillions of individual cells that each have a life going on, they're eating, drinking, sleeping, reproducing, doing their jobs. And in the same way, this wonderful world behind us, we are part of it. We were born here. We have work to do here. And if we become connected in the same way that all the cells in the body are connected, then we can do and live the life that we were intended to live. So that's really the adventure, the true spiritual adventure of Jesus. And there's much more to his life. I'm not only going to talk about the time of his ministry, to talk about some of the healings that took place and how he was tried and tested, literally crucified for those beliefs and opinions by his words. Yet he survived. And what happened afterwards? I am also going to tell that story. So welcome to the second novel of the true spiritual adventure story of Jesus, the christened one, a holy man, a healer, a wise man who was given access to the divine life as he walked about. And the effect of that divine life influenced many individuals later, even by the telling of the story, although the story is not completely accurate. Although what had happened in his life was later written down many years later, Aramaic written in one language and translated over and over again by individuals who had a particular vested interest in the story of his life, by a group of individuals through no fault of their own, felt that they had it all, that they knew it all. But isn't this the story of all the great scientists? They've had to dealt with an entrenched point of view, of course. And when we love something and we think that that something is the answer, then we have a tendency to get stuck on that. And sometimes it requires some lessons, some painful lessons, in order to break us free from that understanding so that we can move on. So let's begin now the second novel on the story behind the greatest story ever told, Memories from the Life of Jesus. An amazing insight into the potentiality of your life, of the validity of your belief, a vaster possibility. So again, this is Dr. Jim Weldon speaking to you from our Heavenly Mountain community here in North Carolina in Boone. And we'll talk again on the story of Jesus, the travels and acts of Jesus, the first year. Thanks. Bye-bye.